Hello, and welcome to On the Turf, hosted by three guys who have never been on the turf. My name is Arjun Narayan.
I'm Shribam Khanda.
And I'm Ram Patel.
And we're back. Week 7 is upon us. We had a pretty great Week 6, especially a great afternoon window in terms of the 1 o'clock games. The Steelers beat the Buccaneers, which, I was telling Shri this. I'm just here for the ride at this point. We beat the Buccaneers. That's great. I have to watch another week of Mitch Trubisky football. Kenny, rest up soon. But that was good to see. We saw, the Patriots destroy the Browns. We saw the Jets blow out the Green Bay Packers.
I called that last week.
Well, you didn't call it the blowout. Episode. Who'd you pick? Who'd you pick in picks?
Okay. In picks,
exactly.
I eventually went to reason, and I picked the Packers. But on the episode, I did say the Jets would win. Should have picked them, but
yeah,
the Jets look solid, and the Packers look pretty bad.
And we're about to talk about the playoff picture in a couple minutes, and we're talking about the Jets probably for the first time. Obviously, the New York Giants doing great as well. I picked them to beat the Ravens, and they did beat the Ravens.
You did pick them.
So 5-1 Giants, 4-2 Jets. Let's talk about the playoff picture, guys. Both of these teams are part of that playoff picture. But let's start at the top of the AFC. Obviously, the marquee matchup of the week, the Buffalo Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs, as the three of us predicted, and a predictably great game between the two teams. The Buffalo Bills are sitting at 5-1, top of the AFC. The Chiefs are sitting 4-2, second in the AFC. And then we got the Titans at the third spot in the AFC South, sitting at 3-3. Was it?
3-2.
3-2.
They had a bye this week.
Yeah, the Titans are sitting at 3-2 in third place atop the AFC South, and the Baltimore Ravens are sitting at 3-3 atop the AFC North, which no one seems to want to win.
No one wants
but
that.
Out of these four division leaders, I think we all agree here that Buffalo and Kansas City will likely stay in their spots, at least at the top of their divisions. But at the bottom, do we think these four division leaders will remain? If you guys remember, 2020, these were our four division winners as well. So a little blast from the past right now.
I mean, I think I have to agree. I think the Bills are winning this one. The Chiefs, you can make the argument that the Chargers are going to provide a bit of competition. I think they will. But at the end of the day, I do trust this Chiefs offense, this Chiefs team a lot more based on what I've seen so far. The Titans, I'm not sold on. The Colts are starting to round into form just a little bit. And they have they have a head-to-head matchup next week. So I think that'll be really big to decide who wins that division. The Ravens haven't looked amazing, but neither has any team really in the AFC North. And they have the best quarterback in that division.
I think Joe Burrow's making an argument for himself. 4 touchdowns last week, back in the Superdome. Bengals look good offensively.
They looked good last week, but realistically, the Ravens have been close in every single game this year. I think it's just a matter of time before they figure things out and start to win a couple more games, especially against their divisional rivals.
I mean, I just want to say really quickly, this is the third blown lead that the Ravens have had in the 6-game season. They blew one to the Dolphins, they blew one to the Bills, and they blew another one in the fourth quarter to the Giants. Harbaugh's a good coach, but this seems to be a problem for the Ravens this year.
Yeah, that's rough. I just got a feel for Lamar, but I think that Lamar should have gotten it together. I thought that he should have shown some leadership. He should have done some more things. But that's not for me to comment on. I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm glad they lost. But regarding the divisions, regarding the divisions, I think I was impressed with Matt Ryan. He looked pretty amazing in that Colts game. He attempted over 50p passes. 58. I think 58 passes.
Bro, Matt Ryan should not be attempting that many passes.
No, and then he set the franchise record for most completions. So he looked pretty elite yesterday, if anything.
Also,
without JT,
JT's been out.
Deion Jackson destroyed me in fantasy yesterday because of that.
Who would have thought? What a world.
Dude, I picked him up. I got 28 points. That was so amazing. But I'm honestly impressed with the Colts. Again, I'm not sold on the Titans either. So, again, the Jags, they had their run, but it's gonna take a while for them. Maybe next year. But in terms of the other division, the Steelers are a half a game away from being last.
Let's not do
that. I'm joking.
Let's not ruin our credibility here. Look,
I'm joking.
I would love to talk about the Steelers challenging for this division, but let's be completely honest. And this kind of goes into the wild card race as well. This AFC North wild card race, or this AFC North race, to me is boiling down to two teams here, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals are currently sitting at 8, right outside the playoff picture. They're 3-3. Ravens also sitting at 3-3. They beat them on Sunday night last week, so they have that tiebreaker. But in terms of the overall wild card race, we also have the Los Angeles Chargers. We obviously record on Mondays, so we haven't seen the Chargers probably beat the Broncos yet. I hope I don't eat my words there. And we have the New York Jets sitting at 4-2 at the 5 seed. So how do we think this wild card race is going to play out? What divisions are going to send multiple teams? I'll go quickly. I think that the AFC East will end up sending 3 teams in the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills, and the Miami Dolphins. And I think the AFC West will send the Los Angeles Chargers along with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we'll have one team out of the AFC North. I can't say really who it's going to be, but it's going to be one of those 2 teams between the Ravens or the Bengals.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I think that definitely the Chargers will make it. I think the Dolphins will get it together and they'll make it for sure. I mean, they're just too talented of a team. Once they get Tua back, this is a completely different team. These last 2 weeks have just really been, I think, a bit of a fluke considering the circumstances. So I think they'll get things back together. AFC North could send 2 teams. Listen, I love the Jets. I like that they're 4-2. But this just feels like a team that's bound to, I don't know.
For me, with the AFC North, like last year, Shree, these AFC North teams almost always cannibalize each other. Ravens were sitting at 8-9 last year. We were sitting at 8-1. The Browns also went 8-9. The Cincinnati Bengals came out with 10 wins. These teams know how to play each other, especially defensively. And everyone's going to kind of cannibalize each other until there's only one team left who's probably it's going to take 10 wins to win this division once again, I think.
I agree, but I think that a 9-win team or like an 8-1 team like the Steelers last year, I think they can sneak in this AFC. It's a very top-heavy AFC. And then after that, I think you'll have teams like the Titans, the Bengals, or I'd say the Ravens in the division, like the Titans, the Bengals, the Jets, even the Dolphins up there in that conversation. Likely even the Raiders or the Broncos will find their footing. You have a lot of teams that are going to be hovering around 500, and it's kind of tough to say who will pull away. But I wouldn't count out the Raiders and Broncos either, though.
Patriots, too.
And the Patriots if they're at 500.
Yeah, my take on the wild card, first of all, I just can't believe the Broncos aren't in this conversation right now. I know why they're not because they played horribly, but preseason, we all thought the Broncos would, I predicted them to win the division. I think Arjun did as well. No, I predicted the Chargers, but I think one of us predicted the Broncos to win. But that team is just so talented, and Russ, he has not been cooking.
Is Russ talented anymore?
He's not feeling very dangerous right now.
Is Russ dependent on Pete Carroll?
More dangerous.
He's danger.
Quick side note: have you guys seen the Dangerwich commercial with the "Why So Serious" music, from the Joker, played over it? I'll put it in right here for all of our viewers.
You ever done anything dangerous? That is dangerous. I've done something like that too. I won't tell anybody. Listen, one time. Yeah, never mind. That's too dangerous.
That makes Russell Wilson honestly seem like the Joker. It's creepy how.
Yeah.
He's not cooking. Yeah. He's not cooking.
Not good at commercials. Not good at football either now.
Yeah, and my second take, the New York Jets. Listen, as much as I love the Jets, Zach Wilson, he got carried, genuinely. He got carried by his run game. He got carried by his defense. I feel like that's not necessarily sustainable for the Jets in the long run. So if they can get it together, I can see them making the wild card. I just can't comment on them right now because he really got bailed out by his defense and run game. So I don't really know what to say about the Jets.
I agree, but it is. I think it could be sustainable. Is the thing. This defense is really, really good.
But it's the Packers' offense.
Sauce Gardner's a top 5 corner already. Jesus Christ.
Dude, genuinely, the Packers...
No, he's a top.
Packers' offense is bottom 10. Like the Packers' offense is just like bad.
It's also
Like
really bad.
All right,
Yeah.
but
That's fair.
With that in mind, let's move to the NFC.
With that in mind, the one quick thing: the Packers' defense is good. The Packers' defense.
No,
is,
it's not. It's not good.
It's not good.
Talented. It's not performing well.
yeah, it's pretty bad.
What I'll say then is Breece Hall is a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can all agree on that.
Breece Hall is a stud. I'm glad I drafted him.
Jets might have the offensive and defensive rookie of the year. But talking about the Packers, let's talk about the NFC real quick. The Eagles got a big win on Sunday Night Football. Again, I think we all picked the Eagles to win that game. And the Eagles really have solidified themselves for me after that win. They have a really easy schedule coming up as well. They're most likely going to win this 1 seed. And, you know, as much as we can say in Week 7, not even halfway through the season yet, I think this is almost as sure of as a bet as you can get. I don't want to eat my words because we saw the Cardinals do this last year, but the Eagles to me seem just...
Why am I catching strays?
Okay.
Why was that necessary?
Because the Cardinals were sitting in this exact position last year. But to me, the Eagles just seem dominant every single phase of the game. They have a great running game, great passing game, great defense. We've talked about it ad nauseum in the past couple episodes. The Eagles, for me, seem like the top of this conference. But then we got all these other teams: the Vikings at 5-1, the Giants at 5-1, and then we have teams like the Buccaneers, the Niners, the Rams, and the Packers. I think the Cowboys will be good when Dak comes back.
Yeah. Next week.
How do we make sense of this NFC race right now, especially with I think only one really good team that we know in this conference?
Are you gonna let them
honestly
the Vikings like that, Shree?
I was about to respond to that. Yeah, Arjun, like the Vikings are 2 games ahead of the Packers for a reason. Like the Packers are bad. Let's get that.
I'm not talking about the Packers. I'm just no. Can you honestly tell me? There's been like quarters where the Vikings look good, but the Vikings, in large part, have been really floundering through these games.
And they got wrecked by the Eagles. That's their one loss.
No, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care as long as they win. Like, they can be bad and still pull off wins, and they can do that against like multiple teams. And if they can keep doing that, I don't really care. Even if it's ugly, we'll take the win. And like that's better than the Buccaneers who lost to the Steelers yesterday. That's better than the 49ers who are like on and off and lost to the Falcons. I'll give it to the Giants. Like the Giants are pretty good. The Cowboys, they're just. Oh, also Cooper Rush. I think we all like we settled down on Cooper Rush. He wasn't that great. Dak's coming back, so the Cowboys will be fine. But honestly, I think the Vikings are probably the 3rd best team in the NFC. So like,
yeah, no,
that's fine.
Wait, 3rd best? Who's 2nd?
The Giants.
I would agree with
like,
that.
No, I think it's the Vikings.
I mean, let's look at who the Vikings beaten, right? They've beaten the Chicago Bears, who don't look that inspiring. They beat Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson last week. They beat the Packers week 1, which doesn't seem as quality of a win. They beat the Lions on a last-minute pass. And they beat the Saints in London on a last-minute missed field goal. Like, this team's resume, and keep in mind, that was the Saints with Andy Dalton, who had just been starting that first week. The Vikings have gotten very lucky breaks here, in my opinion. I do think they're a playoff team. Obviously, they're probably going to win this division. But to me, they're not the class of this conference.
I think that's fair.
No, like
what I will say for the Vikings is that like they beat bad teams, and that's better than we can say for a lot of these teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
They take care of business, and that's worth something. Taking care of business will probably get them the 2 seed, realistically, in this NFC. Yeah, Eagles 1 and Vikings 2, I think, are really locked in just because of the lead they started to grow, and just because of how little we've seen from the Buccaneers, who I think will win the NFC South, and how little we've seen from teams like the Niners, the Rams, who are sitting at 3-3. I think the Rams will eventually take the West and get like a 3 or 4 seed, just because, again, they are another team that tends to beat bad teams. The Rams will beat bad teams, while the Niners will be on and off. For that reason, I give the Rams the benefit of the doubt, and I think we see a 3-team NFC East playoffs.
I think that's
guaranteed. I think it's guaranteed.
I mean, I was actually looking through that because I was just curious about the Giants, right? Giants are 5-1 right now. I was just looking, when's the last time a 5-1 team has missed out on the playoffs? It's virtually unheard of. I mean, there's been like 4 teams in history who have been, 5-0 or 6-0 who've missed out on the playoffs. So the Giants likely will make the playoffs. Same for the Cowboys. The Cowboys have a winning formula. The Giants just find ways to win each week with great defensive and just clutch playmaking. But I want to go back.
I never thought we'd say that about the Giants.
I know.
It's insane.
And especially with the roster they have. But I want to go back to just briefly closing out this NFC discussion. Let's start with the NFC West, right? We got the 49ers, the Rams, and the Seahawks all sitting at 3-3.
That's
At
embarrassing.
least mention our name.
I mean, you're 2-4. I'm saying but you're clearly the bottom of your division right now. I don't think Robbie Anderson's going to help that.
Whoa, I think he could.
But
Hear me out.
let's talk about these three teams because these three teams look like they're going to challenge for the division, right? Are we confident? I'm confident in the Niners in the long term once they get Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, these corners back. I'm confident in them long term. But like you guys said, the Niners are off and on, especially if these defensive injuries can sustain. Do we think there's a chance for the Seahawks here to take this division? I think I'm not going to count them out. Pete Carroll is doing a great job this year. Their draft class looks fantastic. Kenneth Walker, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, the corner, all of them look great. And Charles Cross as well, left tackle. I really like the Seahawks team. I really think they're kind of team, like we were talking about this earlier with the Steelers. With that kind of coaching, you can beat anyone in this league.
You talk about defensive player of the year, like Tariq Woolen, might give Sauce Gardner a run for the money because he's been playing amazing. I think he has 5 interceptions,
4 or 5, already
4 or 5 in a row, and a crazy statistic only Richard Sherman did that in the past. Yeah, so that's crazy. He's playing at an unbelievable level. I think Geno Smith, apart from yesterday's performance, he's been looking really great. He's made amazing throws. When's the last time we saw a 32-year-old have a resurgence in the NFL? I never would have thought that I would have taken Geno Smith over Russell Wilson. He's 32 years old. He's having a resurgence in the NFL. Honestly, at this point, I feel like I'm taking him over probably 3/4 of the league right now. So
I mean, he's playing like a top 10 quarterback. I mean, even
he is
terrible.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. It's just teams with limited talent. At some point, they tend to get figured out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Matt Stafford and that O-line have been looking atrocious. Genuinely, Matt Stafford has been playing a bottom. I don't want to say bottom 5, probably definitely a bottom 10 quarterback in the league. He probably has the most turnovers in the league. He hasn't gotten anything going. He only throws to Cooper Kupp at this point. Other than Allen Robinson who had the 1 touchdown, I'm sure Rohan's rejoicing because he has Cooper Kupp on his fantasy team like I was last year. But the only person that's liking that is just Cooper Kupp fantasy owners. That team.
I don't even think Rams fans like that as much anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Cooper Kupp's on pace to break Michael Thomas's record for the most receptions in the league, but that doesn't matter because the Rams are just so bad. So I don't really know what to think. This team is star-studded. It has a lot of great players, a lot of veterans, but I don't know. I could honestly, I feel like it's going to be the Seattle Seahawks over the Los Angeles Rams. That's just.
I mean, I don't want to add insult to injury here, but the Rams just lost their left tackle Joe Noteboom, who had an Achilles tear yesterday for the season. So they're losing. They're losing. I think all of their starters are gone at this point, or have been.
A lot of them.
A lot of them are gone. So. If you can't win with we saw Joe Burrow last year make the Super Bowl in spite of his offensive line, but that took a lot of, fantastic plays from his weapons to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Can Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford take this team back to the playoffs? I'm really not sure because the Rams to me are a team that can beat anyone and also lose to anyone as well. Maybe they can't even beat anyone. I think they can lose to anyone.
No, I disagree. I think you're describing the Niners there. The Niners can beat anyone.
I think these two teams are a lot more similar than we think, though.
No, but I think the Rams are a higher floor, lower ceiling team. They have the talent and they have the coaching, the skill set to get the job done against bad teams, inferior teams like the Panthers, like the Cardinals. They get the job done. This Falcons team, you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes they'll come out and they'll beat the Rams. They'll beat good teams, but then sometimes they'll come out and they'll lose to the Broncos. They'll lose to the Falcons. You don't know what you get with them.
Yeah. I mean, look, the NFC and I think the NFC is probably just going to be whatever teams are here right now are not probably going to be here outside of the Eagles, Giants, and maybe Vikings for sure.
It's going to be a mid-off towards the end.
It will be. It's going to, especially the NFC West.
Yeah.
But we've talked a lot about a lot of these top teams in the league. Let's talk about fantasy football. We haven't been talking fantasy team of the week in a while, so it's the middle of the fantasy season for a lot of people. A lot of people are looking to make moves right now. Trade deadlines are in fantasy are end of November, but now is where the real trades get done. So let's play a game of buy, sell, hold. So what this means is I'm going to give you guys running backs and wide receivers because we don't really care about quarterbacks. You can stream a quarterback if you're not doing well.
You'd be surprised because I'm just trying to stream Carson Wentz. It's not working out.
Find your Geno Smith, your diamonds in the rough. But in terms of running backs and wide receivers, there's a lot of underperforming ones. There's ones that are overperforming some weeks, underperforming other weeks. So let's talk about these top players or players who are highly touted, whether we should buy them, we should go out and look out for them. If you have them, you should sell them, or you should hold them. So let's start off. Najee Harris, I drafted him on one of my teams. He's currently, I got rid of him last week, so I'll give you an answer or a clue as to what my answer is. He's RB21 right now. Last week, he removed a steel plate from his foot because he had a Lisfranc injury in training camp. He scored his second touchdown of the season last week, only 13 points against Tampa. 13 points is the Najee special. Shuri, are we buying, selling, or holding Najee?
I'm selling. I'm glad. Like Arjun, like you sold him to the guy that I played this week, and I was kind of scared after Najee got a touchdown that first quarter, but he did nothing after that. So I'd sell him. There's a reason why he's RB 21. I don't think that's gonna change, so I'm selling.
Yeah, I think Najee. Sell him. You don't need to sell him for peanuts, but sell him for like a good wide receiver. I got Chris Godwin, and I'm pretty happy with him.
That's crazy.
There's other stuff involved in the trade.
Yeah,
but that was the basis.
But next one, another guy's on one of my teams actually, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is one of the weirdest players this season because he looks very explosive when he's on the field. He has a high yards per carry, but the Packers just refuse to give him the ball in the second half. And Matt LaFleur in his post-game press conference is like, yeah, we should probably do something about that, even though he's the head coach and the offensive play caller. But are we buying, selling, or holding Aaron Jones? Obviously, A.J. Dillon there as well.
That's a tough one. I mean, like you said, I think that was my issue with drafting Aaron Jones going into the season was that you knew he was going to be in a committee. Towards the end of last year, we saw A.J. Dillon take a lot more of those touches, especially high-value touches around the goal line because he is that bull rusher. So with Aaron Jones, I think it's a tough one because I would say you want to sell, but if you're selling, you're not getting much. So with Aaron Jones, I think you really do have to hold. I think you drafted him at a high value for a reason. You drafted him above A.J. Dillon for a reason. I think you're going to have to be accustomed to the ups and downs. But this is that boom-bust type of running back, which is not a bad thing. He can give you those weeks like he did in week 2 where he scored over 30 points, but then he can also have some really just not great weeks. I think for the most part, he'll be serviceable. He'll get you maybe like 10 points or around that area, which is good for an RB2. But then every time you have him in your lineup, there is that possibility that this is the week he explodes. Because of that, I think he's worth keeping. Because if you sell him, you just wouldn't get enough value for him.
Yeah, you gotta hope that the Packers figure it out offensively soon. Mm-hmm. Next one. All right, here's a fun one. Rhamondre Stevenson. I was on this guy at the beginning of the season. I'm glad to see that it's paid off. Unfortunately, I didn't draft him, but I was high on him.
He made sure I knew who he was in fantasy yesterday. I had to go against him.
He's currently around RB20 in most PPR formats. Damian Harris, obviously, his other running back in the backfield, who's a stud. He should come back soon. But there's been a steady increase in production for him since week 3, 2 touchdowns in week 6 against the Browns. He's the bell cow when Harris isn't there. Do we like Stevenson going forward? Should owners try to capitalize on this production and sell high, or keep him in hope that he continues to lead this backfield?
That's a really good question. I mean, my issue is that there's never been a good fantasy-relevant Patriots running back in so long. Since maybe, James White, who was
Dion Lewis, monster. My king. He won me my middle school fantasy league.
I mean, and it's because the Patriots like to use running back committee format. Now, when Damon Harris comes back, I think they will go back to that committee approach. But before it was Harris as the 1 and Rhamondre as a close 2, it might be flipped now. That being said, I still think Rhamondre isn't going to keep up this level of production. He's gotten 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, which really obviously bumps up his value. I think it could be worth trading him and maybe another solid wide receiver and go out and get a really high-end running back who the production, the touches will always be there. I'm saying Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara. I know those names haven't been performing as well as Rhamondre these last few weeks, but when it comes playoff time, they're people who are going to be consistent. They're going to get you points because they do get touches. Whereas Rhamondre, with Damien Harris coming back, you don't know what his situation's going to be.
All right, next one, rounding out our running backs here, Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Say it again?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Helaire.
I'm not going to lie.
Why? Okay, so to give everyone some context, Arjun does not like the Chiefs, first of all, okay?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
If you guys haven't noticed, I
powerhouse.
don't pick the Chiefs that often.
Now, Arjun also has a completely irrational hate for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. No reason whatsoever.
What?
Anytime he touches the ball, he's a bum. He scores a touchdown. He's a bum. He's a touchdown vulture. He got carried by his offense.
Look, I'm not part of the segment here.
But why do you personally hate Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Look, man, I drafted him 2 years in a row, and he didn't give me any production. Okay?
So you're upset that he's finally doing decent.
I'm upset that, he has 2 duds, so maybe whoever got him this year is suffering the same exact fate I did the past 2 years. Sorry.
Arnie, you can't
I'm
hate
good.
on the
Do you need to take a deep breath?
dude.
I'm good. Sheree, what do you think of Clyde Edwards-Helaire? The Kansas City seems to get away from the run game because this dude isn't that good. 2 duds in the past 2 weeks. There's no consistency in the pass game for him. Should we buy, sell, or hold Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
This is vicious.
Yo, Arjun, you can't. I'm pretty sure both of us are taller than him. Like, you can't hate on the guy. He's like a little kid. Actually,
bro.
As tall as Sheree.
How tall is Clyde?
He's like 5'8", 5'7".
I'm 5'8", yeah. So he's probably a little shorter than me. He's like, so anyway.
Why are we just? What did Clyde
Okay,
ever
Sheree,
do to
buy,
any
sell, or
of
hold
us?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I'm selling.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you why.
Sorry.
And Arjun's probably happy with that, but I feel like KC is just a team that's very pass heavy. They don't let you run the ball that often. Like, I'm pretty sure he was the RB4 or the RB3 after the first few weeks, but then he just dropped off. I'm so glad because there's a person on the turf league that has him, and his team's like already overpowered. So if Clyde was also
Shout out Camille.
Shout out Camille.
Shout out Camille last
Camille
week.
texted me.
Camille.
He's like, what can I do to get Miles Sanders?
Yeah, so I'm selling Clyde.
All right. Well, goodbye, Clyde. Sorry, I don't.
Chill.
I don't hate Clyde. I'm sure he's a great person. But let's talk about wide receivers. Christian Kirk, Rohan. I know you have him in one of your leagues. Amazing start to the season. He was a very touchdown dependent, but he was getting those touchdowns. Now he seems to have dropped off. The only reason he scored 11 last week is because he got a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Is he touchdown dependent? Do we believe in him the rest of the season? He seems to be the wide receiver 1, though, on this offense.
He is the wide receiver 1, and I think that at the beginning of the year when we were all on the Jags hype train, he was performing well. He got a lot of targets. He was getting yards, too. It's not all touchdowns. And then last week, he scored a touchdown and really salvaged the week for him. 2 weeks before that, a bit rougher without the touchdown, without much production, really. With Kirk, I'd say buy. If you have him, hold. If not, go out and buy. Bang on the fact that maybe some owners are going to be a little bit skeptical about his production and skeptical about this Jaguars offense as a whole. And go ahead and buy him. Again, he's a wide receiver 1. He gets a lot of targets, or he will at least. I think those numbers will go back up. This Jags team is looking more and more like a team that's going to have to play from behind as well. So I think all of that will contribute to Kirk getting a lot of touches in the future. Again, rough few weeks, but you can't ignore like the solid 3-4 weeks of production to start out the year. So because of that, I think you got to hold or buy.
All right, next one. Similar kind of struggling offense. Now possibly with a new QB, Terry McLaurin. I've drafted this guy 3 years in a row, and he never performs to my expectations. He's only had 1 game above 15, but Carson Wentz is now injured. We could see Taylor Heineke or Sam Howell, the rookie from UNC. Sheree, how do we feel about Taylor Heineke rest of the season? Or not Taylor Heineke, sorry, Terry McLaurin the rest of the season.
This is funny because on the turf league, I traded him to you, and then you traded him to Rohan.
Yeah.
So like this is a full circle right here. But anyways, last year there was no Carson Wentz, and Terry McLaurin was a much better fantasy receiver last year under Taylor Heineke. And I feel like when you have inexperienced quarterbacks, what those coaches will tell you is throw it to the best receiver available, and that is Terry McLaurin. So I think Terry McLaurin could have a resurgence here. I'm not saying he's gonna like average like 20 points per game, but I would honestly just hold right now, or I would buy low because if I'm like the Washington staff, I'm telling you to throw it to Terry McLaurin to let him make plays. Carson Wentz threw so many touchdowns to Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown. So I think Terry McLaurin's going to have Jahan Dotson as well. Exactly. So I think Terry McLaurin's going to have a resurgence. So buy low or hold.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke does have a connection with Terry McLaurin. Only one he really does on this offense. Next one, former Pittsburgh Steeler. Love this guy. JuJu Smith-Schuster finally showed out yesterday in the game with the Chiefs. Only Chief I like. Actually, I like Travis Kelce. But he went...
But Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I'm not talking about. We're done with him. 5 for 113 and a touchdown. He had an amazing play. Broke like 3 tackles on his touchdown run. He's averaging 7 targets a game. The volume is there. I'm just gonna say, as a Pittsburgh guy, I would buy this guy. But what do you think, Rohan?
I'm not gonna say go out and buy, but I will say hold for those of you who have him. I think the target share has been there, but at this point in the season, you want to see some more production. And at this point, we've only gotten one really good game from JuJu. And again, the targets are there, but he's not making the most of it. So I'm not sold on him. That being said, I'm also not saying that you should go out and sell him after one good game. I think there is potential for more good games like this. I think you have to hope that those targets eventually turn into something down the road. And they did eventually, obviously, this week. But in the future, hopefully, they can Mahomes and Smith-Schuster can get the connection worked out. He is the wide receiver 1 in this room. Outside of Kelce,
Kelce's really the
wide receiver 1. But being the second option in Chiefs offense shouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think that he will eventually start to make more of those targets as their chemistry gets better. But I haven't seen enough to go and avidly buy him yet.
Interesting thing with JuJu this week is he's had 8 targets the past 3 games. This week he only had 5 targets, but he seems he made the most of them. Next one, Allen Robinson. Everyone in the fantasy community has been talking about this guy for the past 6 weeks. Finally, 5 for 63 and a touchdown last week. The targets, they're giving him lots of end zone looks, but it's only resulted in 2 touchdowns thus far. Shree, rest of the season, do we like Allen Robinson as a potential flex or wide receiver too?
I made that joke for a reason, about Matt Stafford. He only throws to Cooper Kupp. Yesterday was an anomaly. So I don't see, Allen Robinson having similar production. He has received 6 targets per game at the very most. He's received them consistently, but he hasn't done too much with it. So Allen Robinson, I would honestly sell. I don't know what you can honestly sell him for at this point, but yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah, I picked him off of waivers. I think a lot of people in leagues, especially your bigger leagues, have been just dropping him. Dropping in smaller leagues as well, just dropping him to waivers. So if he's in waivers in your league, go grab him. I think he's a fine bench stash. But otherwise, like Shree said,
it is Cooper Kupp's offense, unfortunately.
It is a Cooper Kupp and Cooper Kupp only offense.
Yeah.
But that's about it for Buy, Sell, Hold. Let us know if you guys want more content like this in terms of fantasy content on the show. We really enjoy talking about fantasy football because, when it's just us, we're talking about that a lot. But before we close out the show, we just want to say this week it'll be the 1 year since Shree and I did our first episode last year, October 22nd. So we just want to say thank you so much for a great year of On the Turf. We're looking forward to another great year, another great season. I remember we talked about Ernest Johnson and the Cleveland Browns as our very first topic on the show. So I think we've leveled up just a little bit. And the following week we got Rohan. But he wasn't on that first episode. So this is really just about me and Shree right now.
Okay, sick.
But in all seriousness, thank you guys so much. We enjoy all the feedback we get on Instagram and YouTube. And we enjoy, we look forward to continue to doing this.
Again, thank you so much for all the support. I'll have my own 1 year anniversary in a couple weeks once I was officially on the turf. And then I'll make a celebration.
Once you were ordained, yeah.
Yeah. I deserve that.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone who comments on the Instagram posts. Everyone at school, at North Allegheny High School, thank you.
Shout out North Allegheny.
Yeah, shout out North Allegheny High School. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
but
thank you.
We got a great next half of the season, almost halfway through the season, which is crazy. But we're really looking forward to it. Check out, as usual, on Instagram. We got picks, we got power rankings, and we got these episodes. And we'll have some mid-season content. Next week, look for our next episode. We're going to be talking about mid-season awards as we did last year, which we always really enjoy doing. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Arjun Narayan.
I'm Shree Bamkonda.
And I'm Rob Patel.
And we'll see you next week in Week 8 on the Turf.